Hi, I'm Simon Bradbury, lead designer at Firefly Studios and on Stronghold Warlords. I've been working at Firefly since 1999 on many Stronghold games. Castles, it seems, are in my blood, and I'm very excited to bring a whole new slant of strategic goodness in the form of Stronghold Warlords to you today. Stronghold Warlords is a really interesting extension of the Stronghold franchise. It covers an investigation into medieval Asian castles and battles and history, something that I didn't know an awful lot about before this. It also introduces gunpowder weaponry, which is, whilst is a little erratic at times, can be devastating if you use it correctly, and adds an interesting new slant to the whole Stronghold RTS world. And also introduces Warlord system, which adds a level of grand strategy that sits atop the main RTS game. We're trying to keep it light, so you're not in the Warlords a lot, but it has a big effect on the overall outcome of the game. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today. So I guess why the Warlord system? Well, we started out in Europe with the basic Stronghold game, Castle Sim, Castle Sieging, Castle Life, and then we extended that with the Crusades, with skirmish play in the Middle East. And we've done a few iterations of that. The Warlord system quite naturally lends itself in a way to Asia, with all the shoguns and all the warring states of China. And the Warlord system adds something that we've always wanted to do with Stronghold, which is add a kind of touch of grand strategy atop the RTS and the sim part of the game. You're not in the Warlord system a lot, but the decisions you make in there can have quite far-reaching consequences for the outcome of your mission.
The people have seen a sign of your divinity and have renewed faith in your rule.
So the genesis of the Warlord system comes from the older state system that we have introduced, I think, in Stronghold 2. But the Warlord system is so much more than that. It's like the estate system on rocket fuel, I suppose. The Warlord system adds a lot to the estates. You've got direct control over the Warlords. The Warlords themselves have a whole range of personalities. They do completely different things. Some are easy to capture, some are hard, some you can capture militarily, some diplomatically, and then each of them do different things. So some are good attackers, some are good defenders, some are good with economy, some are good with food. Which Warlord you take and when adds a huge amount to the success or failure of your mission. And you have a very, very precise control over them, whereas I think in the original estate system, you had very little control. So the estate system had an inkling of an idea. We didn't really investigate it very thoroughly, but with the Warlord system, we've gone completely to town with it. There's so much you can do with the Warlord system, and you have precise and really, really solid control over how you do it. So I've been playing the missions now for a good 3 months, and it's been brilliant to see the way the Warlord system has evolved over time, and it has changed a lot. I'm going to talk today about 3 archetypes that perhaps illustrate the way the Warlord system will play out. For example, the first one is a military warlord, the Tiger. The Tiger, as you would imagine, has got claws. He is great at attacking other people's castles or taking other warlords for you. If you've enough diplomacy points, you can get him to send off a small army. If you upgrade him, you can get him to send off a bigger army. And he sends out tough troops, swordsmen, crossbowmen. They will last the distance. Follow up behind them with some archers or some axemen, or use him as a distraction, or maybe use him to attack one side of the castle while you attack round the back. Lots of ways you can use the Tiger. The Tiger, though, is a tricky one to get hold of. He's medium in terms of capturing diplomatically, but hard to capture militarily. So maybe he's someone to think about a little bit later on in the game, and maybe go for something a bit easier, like a mouse, for example, earlier. I'm also going to talk a little bit now about an economic warlord. The pig is great for food production. Food production is the bedrock of your mission. As you start out, you need to increase your rice, because rice is vital to any mission, and then you need other sources of food, because that will just allow you to increase your tax rate, essentially. And your tax rate will bring in more opportunities for more troops, consulates and embassies, more diplomacy points, and so the whole thing rolls along. The pig loves his food, and he will send it to you, provided that you've got some diplomacy points to encourage him to do so, at any time you can ask the pig for a windfall of food. And you can use that then to basically ramp up your taxes, get some gold, and use it for a big military push. There's also another type of warlord, and these types of warlords usually are special ops. They have special uses. One example of which is the Crane. The Crane warlord is hard to get diplomatically, but easy to get militarily. He hasn't got a lot of use in defending you or attacking for you. He's not going to be sending you goods, but what he does do is he really turbocharges your diplomacy. You have a certain rate of diplomacy points, which you can increase by consulates and embassies. But with the Crane, you can spend an amount of diplomacy to get a much bigger amount back over a period of time. You spend some points, and then maybe 2, 3, 4 minutes later, you've got a lot of diplomacy points rolling in, which you can then use to go and capture some of the tricky people across the map. These are the sorts of decisions that you have to make on every map, and every map is different, and how you use the warlords and which warlords you take and when is completely different every time. Since I first introduced the warlord system, probably 2 years ago now, we've been developing it and we've been evolving it. Perks are a thing we introduced. We didn't originally plan for them, but now every warlord has a unique perk. Just by owning that warlord, you get that perk. So, for example, the mouse warlord means more rice is dropped off at your granary. Every mouse warlord you have, more rice is dropped off, they stack. The tiger warlord, for example, makes your melee units fight a little bit stronger. As well as the perks, the warlords also have abilities, or edicts. You issue these using diplomacy points that you have accrued, and they do all sorts of things for you. They deliver you goods, weapons, food, they attack, they siege, they defend, they build castles, they give you diplomacy points, and they do some other sneaky things as well. These are things that you have at your direct control. Unlike the previous estates we had, here you press a button, it happens. And it's up to you what you do, when you do it. These edicts, these abilities, can also be upgraded. As you upgrade the warlords, you also get access to more variety of edicts, more variety of abilities. Some of their things will upgrade automatically, like their castles, perhaps they'll get a bit stronger, but also, whereas they only may have had 2 options at your disposal at the start, by upgrading it, say, 3, 4, 5 times, you may have 3, 4, 5 things that you can do with that warlord. Or maybe some of the things they did originally have got a bit stronger. The warlord system has got a huge amount of depth, but it's very, very easy to use. So how do the warlords affect a typical Stronghold game? Well, in a campaign, they affect it in very different ways. A simple siege may not use a warlord at all, but most games will. Some games you may or may not have the resources and you have to rely on warlords. Some games you're surrounded by enemy warlords. Some games capturing a warlords will give you all sorts of military opportunities and make your life a lot easier. For example, a turtle warlord can really hold off in the early game an aggressive AI lord attacking you. Build the turtle warlord up, upgrade him, upgrade his castle, let him take the heat at the start, whilst you concentrate on building up your economy. Or maybe you look at a particular castle in a mission and think, that's going to be hard to take. I'm going to need to wait to a certain point before I have a couple of tiger warlords before I'm going to launch a 3-pronged attack on it. Each mission is totally different, but pretty much the warlords will always play a part in a smaller or a greater extent. Skirmish, however, you've got a lot more options. It's a lot more fluid, in that if you wanted to outsource maybe the fighting to the tigers and the dragons and the horse, great, then do that and sit back and build your economy and let them do the hard work. Or maybe you're an aggressive style player and you want someone else to do the more straightforward things of increasing your rice production, boosting your diplomacy, getting you some iron or gunpowder in. Use warlords for that and you focus on the fighting. So you would tend then to go for maybe pig and oxen or some mice warlords. How you use the warlords in that situation is very fluid. How you use them in the campaign can be life or death. At launch, there's going to be 8 warlords, 8 unique and very different warlords, and they're going to be available in all modes, including free build, where If you want to learn about the Warlords, you want to build your castle that bit faster, or you just want to have fun, you can really go and explore the world of the Warlords. We've been balancing the game now. I've been balancing the game with other people for about 3 or 4 months. The Warlord system is really working. It's great fun. I know I would say that, but it really is. We think it's going to be a huge step up for the series in terms of this extra layer on top of it. It's fairly easy to use, but it makes a huge difference. Thanks for watching. We're very excited about Stronghold Warlords. If you are too, please subscribe, give us a like, and we'll see you soon.